Just to run through what the panel is going to be about. First, I'm just going to say, what is Tokusatsu if you're unfamiliar with the term. Then I'm just going to do a sort of brief run through of like the major franchises that are still going at the moment and the most popular ones. And then finally, I'm going to tell you about what shows are airing at the moment in Japan and also how you can watch them if you're interested. Yeah, there you go. Firstly, the origins of Tokusatsu. First, it's a portmanteau of the phrase Tokushu Satsui, which means special effects director, and it was the title that was given to, well, as you can guess, the person in charge of, say, the special effects in the 1950s and such. And yeah, they've been in charge of making the costumes and such, and the terms just basically carried on from there. It's focused on sort of producing special effects with traditional methods over CGI. As time sort of went on, say America sort of stopped using like traditional methods and started making monsters, making monsters out of CGI, trying to make CGI effects and everything. Meanwhile, Japan sort of stuck with it and decided to try and sort of refine the art, and the shows that are made with those traditional methods today are referred to as tokusatsu, such as, say, sutamation, which is like the art of, say, making giant mecha, not in a computer program, but rather with a guy in a suit. And it's employs what I like to call like the giant perspective, i.e. the sort of top-down, the low shot, to sort of simulate the height, and they slow down the film a slight bit, so it looks like it really is a mecha. Now, why would you be interested in Tokusatsu? Well, firstly, there's the sheer legacy behind it. I mean, the Super Sentai franchise for over 33 years. Kamen Rider, Master Rider series has been 37 years. Ultraman, or as they pronounce it, Ultraman, has been 41 years. And Godzilla, which you probably have heard of, has been going on for a massive 54 years. So even if you're sort of not interested in the entertainment, it might be worth checking out just because it just has such a long history and culture in Japan. And see, the origin was originally in Kabuki theatre in the 17th century, and sort of bunraku puppetry in the 19th century, which you can see an example of which here, where they would use the people dressed completely in black in a black background to sort of manipulate the puppets, and focus was on creating really lifelike puppets out of what materials that they had. Yeah, and to the modern day, the major franchises, Super Sentai, Kamen, etc., are pretty much cultural icons. So if you're interested in Japan and Japanese culture at all, you should check out Tokusatsu, because it's just such a mainstay in Japan these days, like say, much like James Bond in Britain. And they've even got a museum for it, the Bandai Museum in Japan, which is basically a shrine sort of dedicated to all the franchises and such. You get a ton of visitors every year, and also the Super Sentai, longest running television, and that's straight years and such. They put on something new every year, and I think that's worth their respect, no matter what country you're in. Yeah, there's the content behind it as well. If you're an anime fan, you'll probably like Tokusatsu. It's probably the closest thing to a sort of live-action anime that you can get. And I know there's sort of been live-action animes made beforehand. Sort of, has anyone seen like the live-action Sailor Moon, or sort of, what is it, Negima? They made a live-action version of Negima. This is better than that. It's much better than that, because they're not trying to like make a version of an anime. They're sort of making a new story, but sort of an anime-esque style. And I think it's got a lot of cross. Like if you're like the magical girl genre, for instance, you'll probably like say the Hentai Heroes genre, which is the main ones that are going on now. If you like, say, the drama, animes and such, that's in there as well. Comedy, fantasy, sci-fi, all the different Tokusatsu shows cover a lot of different genres. It's been going on for so long that they've pretty much covered everything. So you'll probably find at least one show that you really enjoy. Yeah, there's different themes behind them. Which is interesting if you're studying television shows at all. In Western children's television, the rules seem to be that you sort of can't be seriously hurt. If you're sort of a good person, everything will sort of turn out good in the end. There won't be just smacking at the end, and everyone will be happy. And the titular role, heroes always win. And if you try and give me any exceptions to that, it'll probably be the more recent ones that have been taking a lot of inspiration from anime anyway, because the rules of Japanese Tokusatsu shows and children's television in Japan in general is you can do everything right, but stuff still lose in the end. Good people can do evil things, and the big one, especially since the word is forbidden in the US apparently, is people can die. And no matter what, I think it's a really sort of interesting way to look at the different sort of contrasts, and it's the different cultures sort of right there, and the way sort of they give information, show television for children. Before I go on to the major franchise, I want to introduce you to Shotaro Ishinomori, who is a name that we'll be talking about quite a lot. Yep, he was born in 1938, died 8 years ago, longer than that, yeah, 10 years ago. He was nicknamed the King of Manga, and he was the creator of such things as Cyborg 9, well, 9 cyborgs, the Kamen Rider franchise, and he created Super Sentai Go Ranger, which eventually became the Sentai franchise. And then if you note, he holds the Guinness World Record for most comics published by a single author, which was awarded posthumously to him. Let's see, it's over 700 titles, 500 volumes, over 128,000 pages. Just impressive. Okay, the first franchise I'm going to go through is the Super Sentai franchise. The basics behind this are, Sentai literally means task force, and there's typically 5 heroes. Recently they've been adding a regular 6th hero along to make that appears around midway through the season, and the emphasis is on the teamwork. And originally it was just the Sentai, and it didn't officially get called Super Sentai until the 3rd series, in which that was the first one with a giant robot, and since then every series has had a giant robot, and that's been the Super Sentai, that's where the Super from Super Sentai comes from. And recently they've also had a sort of mid-season upgrade, which started about 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, this was the first entry in the Sentai series, created by Ishinomori in 1975, and the name literally translates to Secret Task Force Go Ranger. I see the pun in the title is Go equals 5. I went for years and years without actually realising what the pun in Go was. Then when I realised it, I sort of sobbed for about 5 minutes and then started laughing along at like all the uses of it. The general gist was good guys, ego, bad guys from the Bad Cross Army. It was the 70s. The plot wasn't that complicated and such, and it ran for 2 years, 1884 episodes, and